Alright everyone, Kamala Harris right now is getting absolutely toasted online and elsewhere because the 13 families, related to the Afghan withdrawal, there were 13 service members that were killed on that day because Biden fucked up basically. They have come out and Kamala and Biden to an extent have been complaining about Donald Trump at Arlington Cemetery because one of his staffers briefly pushed aside somebody who was working at the cemetery. And this was considered a great breach of decorum, and Kamalaharris weighed in on it and so forth. But most of the 13 families have weighed in on this, and they've toasted Kamalaharris. They said, well, Trump was there because we fucking invited him. You didn't even give us a fucking phone call. Link in the description. Not archived, of course. You need to watch this video. It's very impassioned. The family members of the slain are lock, stock, and barrel siding with Donald Trump, saying we wanted him there specifically. He was willing to listen to us. You were not. You didn't even fucking call us on the phone. You didn't give a shit. This is almost surreal, actually, what I'm seeing here. I've never seen a slurry of devastation towards a political candidate on this order before, and that's really what it is. If you want to compete in a place like, let's say Virginia, alright, lots of military there, lots of veterans, you don't want to piss them off. It's, you don't want to piss off the Gold Star families. They're basically swift boating her, and it's surreal to see. Now, I shouldn't be chuckling because, of course, people, their loved ones died, and that's sad, and it shouldn't have happened. And it was preventable. That's the whole point, though. It was entirely preventable what happened during the Afghan withdrawal. The situation did not need to happen. Joe Biden, by the way, and Kamala Harris, his VP, were aware of the situation in Afghanistan. They were aware that it was tenuous at best. They should have immediately been bringing out U.S. service members. They could have done it surreptitiously. And nobody would have even noticed. The Taliban would therefore have had no American citizens to actually kill. This was not done. They punted the can down the road by about a month. And then they didn't even bother to extract the people that were there guarding the airbase or the military goods, billions of dollars worth of armored vehicles and motorcycles and guns and ammunition. They didn't even bother to lift it out. That's the whole problem. And that's why these people are complaining. I would complain too. Like if my loved one, if my son, my daughter, brother, sister, whatever it happens to be, they go off and they fight bravely and they're guarding an airbase and then they get fucking bombed by the Taliban. I'm going to look at the administration. I'm going to say, at the very least, can you send me a fucking phone call and give your condolences? Like, yeah, it might be an empty gesture, but at the very least, send the fucking phone call. No, it's hiding Biden and hiding Harris. They're not interested in the plight of the average person, and they haven't been. And that's the other point. It extends beyond what happened at Bagram Air Base. It's just a microcosm of the administration's lack of concern for the average person. It's because they're communists, they're collectivists, so they see people as interchangeable. Well, if one person dies, another person's born. It doesn't matter that individual's life, what they've done, what they've accomplished, how they are, how they speak, what they do. That doesn't matter. It only matters in the collective stance. That's been the administration this entire time. She's getting rightfully dragged by these Gold Star families, most of which turned out to make videos, and they're like, what the hell? You're criticizing Donald Trump because one of his staffers shoved somebody briefly. But you literally took our loved ones away. It's just surreal looking at this, actually. Again, link in the description, not archived. Watch the video. This is a rather impassioned speech, by the way. You can tell. This dude is in pain. He lost a loved one. And the administration doesn't give a fuck about it. They just don't care. They literally don't care about anybody, unless you're a big donor. If you're a billionaire banker and you die, they'll give you a eulogy. If you're the average person, or the average person's relative, maybe you'll get a letter, if you're lucky, months and months later. And he's saying, the administration never even gave us a call, which, by the way, under such circumstances, it's a breach of decorum for the Kamala administration not to do so. Generally speaking, the commander-in-chief, which clearly isn't Joe Biden, will communicate, at least in some respectful sense, with the families of those that have died, specifically with honor. So you have like a major terrorist attack, your kid stepped on a landmine, I'm real sorry about this. Even if it's like autographed or something like that, at the very least there's an attempt to show sympathy, to show some condolence. You're like, well, your son, your daughter, your brother, your sister, whatever it was, they fought bravely, died in the service of the country. I'm sorry about this, but it is what it is, basically. At the very least, an attempt is made to show some basic sympathy, some basic human compassion. Kamalaharris, though, doesn't have any sympathy or compassion, I assure you. She is a psychopath. This is exactly what I'm talking about. She is a psycho. She's literally, when I see her, and she was talking about the other day, fixing collard greens or something like that. Oh yeah, and I cheat, I use Tabasco sauce. What the fuck are you talking about? God, you're more derpy and cringe than Hillary Clinton could ever be. Hillary Clinton is far superior to you. She should be the Dem candidate. She'd actually stand a chance. What the hell are you even talking about? You've got these families that are hurting. They've lost loved ones. And, on the anniversary, it must be like being Frodo remembering the Morgul blade that stabbed you. It must hurt. These are real people. They have real experiences, real emotions. But Kamala doesn't. That's the whole point. She doesn't have human emotions. She's completely vacuous. She says nothing. She feels nothing. She only looks out for herself. I'm not surprised that the administration would neglect these poor individuals and ignore them entirely. It doesn't surprise me in the least. I wish that it did. I wish that I could say I was surprised, but that's not actually the case. It's not actually the case. No, these people, they lost sons and daughters and shit like that, and you act like Donald Trump did something wrong by going and laying a wreath because one of his staffers briefly acted out. And then it's a huge breach of decorum. All of a sudden, it's a huge problem. Your administration is responsible for their deaths. I would think that that's more important than the fact that a Trump staffer briefly shoved somebody a couple feet to the side. I would think that that's a little bit lopsided now, wouldn't you? You led to the deaths of 13 individuals, that's just in the military capacity, because of your bungling. And Kamala is part of the administration that bungled it. And then you dare to say that Trump is doing something absolutely terrible by going and honoring the fallen when he was invited there? I didn't even know that originally. I wonder why. The legacy media didn't make me aware of the fact that Trump was personally invited by the fallen to lay a wreath and to honor the slain. He gives a fuck. The Kamalaharris administration, they care a little bit less. You may have noticed that. I'm not surprised, though. They want to weaken and denigrate the United States any way that they can because they want to adopt globalism and make the United States just, we've got a good economy. We've had our run. Let's bow our heads, we'll take a step back and a deep breath, and we'll understand that we're basically a bitch now. That's not what I want for my country. I want my country to have a big, beefy military that it doesn't use so that there aren't any slain soldiers. I want a big, beefy economy that we leverage over other countries for diplomatic purposes. That's the whole point. That's not what Kamala Harris has in mind. She has in mind weakness, fecklessness, shitty foreign policy, and fucking killing Americans. That's exactly what she wants. She'd laugh at it. She literally cackles when dead children are brought up. How much do you think that she laughs when she looks at footage of those Marines getting splattered? She's a goddamn psycho. It's real. Really, she is legit a psycho. I can read her like a book. That's about all. Peace out.